Hi, and welcome back to Season 3 of the Grateful podcast. I'm super happy to be back with you, exploring how we can lead sustainable change. You may have noticed we took a little bit of a break. That was because there were some exciting new things happening at the Grateful that I'm actually wanting to talk with you about today. So thanks for your patience while we took a little pause with the podcast. But now we're back and we have a great lineup of women from around the world to chat to this season, trying to learn more about the sustainability and the food challenges that they're tackling through their work, and as importantly, what they're learning along the way about life and leadership, and basically the inner work we need to do if we want to engage with this outer work. And as was the case last season, I'm also going to be offering up some solo episodes, diving into challenges, topics that I see come up again and again in my coaching and training programs, things that can help you on your journey to lead sustainable change, give you some recipes that offer you support along the way, helping you personally build these inner skills that we need for outer change. Now, as I mentioned, we took a break between Season 2 and Season 3, and there was a very good reason for that. Last year, I launched a brand new program at the Grateful, which is called Lead the Change. And this is a 6-month-long leadership and facilitator training for women who are working to tackle sustainability or food system challenges. And because that was a big and new undertaking, I really wanted to direct my energy there and make the program the best that it could be. So that just meant taking a little break from the podcast. As you may have noticed, there are no ads here. There's no sponsored content, which means it's a complete labor of love, this podcast, which also means that when things get busy, it sometimes gets placed to the side. But I'm happy to be back with you now. And I thought, given the reason for the break, it would be actually a good idea to get started with Season 3 by telling you a little bit more about the Lead the Change program, what it is, and more importantly than me talking about it, hearing from some of the past participants to learn a little bit more about what impact the program had on them, what things have shifted for them since finishing the program. And all of this is also to help you work out if it's something you're interested to join. We have applications open for the next round now. So if you're wondering, is this something for me? Then hopefully this podcast helps you work out if it's a fit for what you're looking for. Before we hear the participants' perspectives who joined Lead the Change, let me tell you about how the program came to be and how it's set up and structured. So a few years ago, I started running a program that's called Be the Change. And this is a group coaching and leadership development program that supports women working in sustainability or food systems. And the focus of that program is really on setting the foundations to lead sustainable change. Through the program, I try and help participants basically on 3 different levels. Firstly, to try and get clear on the from where. Where do we want to show up and create change from? How can we make that a more grounded and nourished foundation rather than a foundation of exhaustion or burnout or overwhelm, which is so often the case in our busy lives these days? The second thing we look at in the program, Be the Change, is the how. So how do we want to lead change? How can we do it showing up with compassion for ourselves and others? How can we build the skills to communicate and collaborate effectively so that we can really co-create the future that we want together? And dare I say, even have fun along the way. And then the third pillar that we look at in Be the Change is the what. So really helping you get clarity on the specific role that you want to play to make a positive impact. Finding that kind of sweet spot where your skills and your experience and your strong zones meet with a need in the world or in our food systems. So Be the Change is a 4-month program. We've had nearly 150 people go through the program in the last couple of years. And when it ends, all of the participants stay connected in the Grateful community so that we can keep learning and exchanging together. And in this space, a lot of the former participants of Be the Change started talking about how they would love to do a follow-up program. And so we all got together, we did a series of focus groups and co-designed what that follow-up program might look like. They spoke about wanting to deepen their leadership skills and build really specific practices, skills, knowledge, and expertise to support them in the work that they were trying to do. And so in parallel to this, I was also deepening my own reflections on how, if we want to be an effective leader, we need to be working on 3 different levels: seeing ourselves as a leader, as a human being, first and foremost, seeing ourselves as a leader, as a coach, and seeing ourselves as a leader, as a facilitator. I feel that these 3 lenses can be really powerful ways to explore how we can actually facilitate change, make a contribution through the work that we're doing here. And so these 2 kind of parallel streams came together, the inputs from participants, the reflections that I was having, and the outcome of this process was a brand new leadership and facilitator training, which is called Lead the Change. And Lead the Change goes for 6 months. It's an online program, but it's run live in a way that you can really connect with your cohort. You can keep up with the material. You can stay engaged with the process as we go through it together. And the program's built around 3 main modules. So I just want to give you a quick insight to these so that contextualizes the things that you're going to hear from the participants afterwards. So the 3 modules that Lead the Change are built on are leading yourself, leading others, and leading change. So the first module, leading yourself, really looks at this idea of the leader as a human being. It's a place, a module, a space that helps you know yourself at a deeper level as a leader. And here we work with a lot of different tools, but a focus of that module is working with the Enneagram. And the Enneagram of Personality is a really powerful tool. I won't go into detail here because I'm going to do a whole episode on it this season, so you can dig into it more. But the Enneagram is basically a framework that helps us understand what are our deeper drivers, motivations, and reactive patterns that play out in our life, and how does that impact the work that we do and how we show up as a leader. It's an extremely powerful tool for understanding ourselves more deeply, and also for giving us a set of tools and development pathways that can be really transformative in terms of how we relate to ourselves and others and the world around us. In this first module, we also use the information from the Enneagram to develop personal leadership practices to help you manage your time and energy. We give you a chance to clarify your own theory of change and touch on what your inner and outer purpose really is. And we also help you bring all this together and explore how to bring all of these new insights about yourself and information to life through how you hold space, how you show up, and how you engage with others. The second module we then move into is called Leading Others. And here we're really looking at you as a leader, as a coach, how you can embody the role of a coach and how that can help you create and hold inclusive space for others. In this module, we really help you to build the skills needed to set and hold inclusive spaces for collaboration, spaces and cultures of belonging where people can come together and collaborate effectively. And we do this in 2 parts. We first look at more smaller or one-to-one settings and look at building up your coaching skills to use in such situations, skills for both delivering and managing feedback. And in the second part of the module, we look at creating spaces for groups. We look at topics of belonging and othering, topics of neurodiversity, topics of bias, and explore what it takes to create cultures of belonging. And at the end of this module, you develop your own leadership principles so that you really have clarity on how you want to hold inclusive space for others. In our third module, Leading Change, we dive into the idea of the leader as a facilitator. We look at how we can show up in a facilitator role to facilitate processes and journeys that both inspire and empower change. We look at how facilitation is actually critical to bring about any change that we want to see in our organizations or in our society. We help you build your presence as a facilitator and leader, and also fill your toolkit with a bunch of really practical tools to help you design and facilitate both effective and inclusive processes and meetings and workshops and learning journeys, and basically any setting where we're trying to bring people together and bring about change together. So there's a lot of really practical tools and skills that we help you build in that module. So you go away really ready to put them into practice. And that putting into practice is woven throughout the program, and a part of that integration piece is a purpose project that you work on throughout the program. It can be very, very small to very, very large, depending on what your needs are. And it's really a space where you can bring all of this different inputs from the program to life in your own work. And that was really fun to see last time what people were working on and how they're going to move it ahead once the program finishes. So the first round of the program kicked off last year in April, and I was really delighted to welcome a pilot cohort of 16 women from 10 different countries and work together with them for this 6-month period. And I have to say, I absolutely loved running this program. I loved the energy and the insights and the experience and the knowledge that all of the participants built. And again, I was just blown away by how much learning there is from each other when the space is really set up for that. So it was a joy for me to run it, and I'm really excited to do it again this year. We had participants come from a range of different backgrounds, so all women working in sustainability or sustainability in food more specifically. We had some who were founders and CEOs of organizations, some who were scientists or researchers or lecturers, some working as consultants, some who were the internal lead in their company for sustainability, and some who were in a transition phase, who had stepped away from a role, were exploring their next steps, or thinking of leaving a role and seeing what might be ahead of them, and using this program as a really intentional way to help them shape that in a way that's aligned with what they want and need, so that they can work with greater fulfillment as well. So just to say that you can come to the program from a lot of different backgrounds, from a lot of different stages in your career, and find that you can also adapt it to the setting that you're currently in. So that's enough from me about the program. I've popped a link in the show notes. If you want to dive into the details, you can do so on the website. But now I'd love for you to hear from some of the participants from the first cohort of Lead the Change. As participants were wrapping up the Lead the Change program, I was really interested to hear from them about how their perspective of leadership has changed over the course of the program. And here's what they had to say.
I think I always used to think of leaders as people who were somehow superior, whether it's through their experience or through their knowledge or just through their, just natural gifts that they somehow had. And I now think that, well, everyone's a leader. It just, maybe some people are not acting it out, but everyone has it in their capacity. And a real leader is someone that actually works to bring out the leader in others. So it's just a lot more inclusive in a way.
This whole idea of leading, being the person in front and other people have to follow, super scary. Like, you're alone there at the front. Like, everybody's going to see you make those mistakes. And ever since we've started the program, tapping into these whole other ideas of leadership, and I'm like, I don't want to be alone. We can all do it together and be responsible together. And I think a lot of your program allows you to see things from that kind of view as well. Mm-hmm. And also relax a little bit, like, okay, cool. We can do this together. Yeah.
I think my biggest insight and what was really amazing about the course was the way you approached it. My concept of leadership really shifted. My understanding of that does mean, what it can mean, and how I can fit into it really shifted quite radically. I thought leadership was what other people do. And I thought there are certain skills you need, and I guess I can train up on those skills. It never really occurred to me, although in hindsight it makes perfect sense, it never really occurred to me that it doesn't have to be that way, and that leadership can take so many more shapes, and that it's very individual.
My view of leadership has changed, and the importance of that role has been made aware to me. Leadership sometimes sounds so formal, or like you need to wear a suit or something and be at the front of the board. But this is not that, but it's more special than that. It's leading from the inside and being aware of your role and the power that you have within that role and using that for the benefit of everyone around. Realizing that a lot of the important aspects of being a leader I already naturally did was a positive boost to me. So it gave me this boost saying, I am getting these things right, but then giving me more background on why and how I can improve even further. And then in addition, showing where the potential gaps are and then why those are important as well, and giving me something to work towards going forward. Seeing that, I don't have it all wrong, and these are ways I can improve, and just being kind of aware of the leadership role that I have in my everyday life that I wasn't really aware of before, and then using that awareness to take it more seriously or to do it more meaningfully.
Before, I also had more maybe a classical view on leadership, that leader is one who knows where to go and the way to get there. I still think a good leader needs to know where we roughly need to go, that the group also doesn't get lost, but to involve much more people in finding the way together and co-creating.
Before, maybe I had more this idea that there is a one-size-fits-all for the leader and the led. And now I'm much more kind of, there is so much stuff we could explore together.
We don't have to do it the way it has been done. In the past, it was probably more directive, and in the future, the hierarchy is probably flatter. And the leading, I think, is more personal and also in adaptation to the person. Not everyone is the same. So not every team member or not every person you lead needs the same. And me also to see that it's okay if I lead more in this personal way. It's my natural way to lead like this, but I have gotten the feeling that it might not be professional to lead in this way. And so I think this is the change, to realize this, to see it's okay.
So Lead the Change is a fully online program, with the exception of a couple of hybrid workshops and events. So with that in mind, I wanted to hear from the participants about what they thought about the delivery and the structure of the program, the methods that we use, the overall flow of the journey. And here's what they had to say about that.
I think the overall flow and structure is so good. So it fits so well. The way you've set it up, like to lead yourself, lead others, lead the change, is very empowering. Now I can see much more practically what it means to do it from the inside out and to really fill it in with your own voice. How do you really fill and create a space to do it in your own way? And that has been empowering and surprising to me, the extent of that.
I think the course was excellent. Given that I design courses myself, I could see how this is just so well designed. It flowed so naturally. Each module, it was perfect combination of like theoretical concepts with the practical application.
I think the sequence is perfect. You get the time to focus on yourself. The whole module 1 is like this amazing focus on you as a leader, which was really beautiful to have that space and not being immediately like, okay, other people, what are we going to do with other people? But already in module 2, it's like this little bit forward. So it's like, all right, so I did a lot for myself, and now we're going to focus on how can I listen well? How can I ask good questions? How can I be aware that other people might have other needs in the whole neurodiversity aspect? I mean, that's just pure brilliance, right? And then the third one is like, okay, cool. Now what am I going to do with all this? And then it's all of these methods. And you're just like, oh, this makes so much sense. And I can actually use them, and I can use them in a valuable amount of time.
Be the Change was such a strong support at the end of my PhD that I was like, whatever this is, even if the content doesn't align with what I need, like act of doing it and being part of this program will be super helpful. So I think that's how I came into it. And how I left I mean, I would say just profoundly transformed. And that sounds intense, but that's because that was an intense journey. Having the first module being about leading yourself in a moment where I felt totally lost and kind of just this pervasive feeling of like, is this just what life is? Just kind of being really confused until you retire. So that was very, very transformational. And then moving into the second module where we were thinking more deeply about how can we show up to lead others. And the second one, so I was kind of familiar with a lot of the tools, but it was really nice to have frameworks. And it was also really nice to be able to remind myself that although I do like to have this kind of solo deep work, I also really like to have this aspect of like counseling and coaching and kind of this relational type of work where I'm the one guiding as well. And then the final module where we're talking about system change, I think for me, just having this understanding of emergence and how to manage emergence has been really like, it's just taken a lot of stress off of my shoulders of feeling like I had to have everything figured out, and reflecting then on past projects or past events in life and seeing the emergence in them and being like, okay, like you can kind of relax into that process. The whole framework you gave us on how to lead ourselves, from knowing yourself to knowing your inner mentor and kind of having that inner leader that you can really follow. So that whole journey you took us on, from self-knowledge where we were at into who is that mentor that you're going to be following, and that person is, already there. It's you. And so then in the second module, I think everything we did around awareness of others, who are the kinds of people that you can be working with. And so for me, the whole package is having a greater awareness of these small changes you can make that are like nothing to you, but might be everything to someone in your team and you don't know.
Honestly, the time constraints were perfect. So I thought it was nice because I liked the every other week calls. I thought the 2 hours was a good amount of time. I liked the mixture of group discussions or like overall discussions, but then going into the breakout sessions. And then I liked doing the weekly assignments and having that kind of motivation to then talk about it at the next calls. So I think it has a nice mix of flexibility, but also structure that I appreciated. I kept up as much as I could, and I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a treat for me to sneak away from my work for an hour or two during the week and do the little assignments. And I really liked it. So it wasn't a chore for me.
I felt that it's a comfortable pace, and this 2 hours always felt like very rich, and to catch up or to digest what was there.
I love validation weeks. I think those were really important because it's a lot of material. And if you want to go through it, like if you really want to do it all, you need a lot of time. And the consolidation weeks are super important. Also love the summer break. You've done all this work for this program, and I did a lot of work as well. And you didn't tell me what to do. You just, you enabled us to develop. And Michelle, it's amazing what you've created.
I think you really think this program through so much. I've never done any other training that was so well designed and put together and thought through, and with so much, so mindful and so really into the detail that I was really happy.
I think even if I took one of these leadership workshops or something, it wouldn't be the same. Like this is much deeper and much more personal, but like learning the Enneagram. You would never do this in a leadership course. So I think you have to go down to yourself first, do some reflection. I love the way that the course was structured, like inner to outer to bringing it all together. And I think you can't do the outside work without going inside first.
I found it really really cool to have these amazing women, basically from the outside, come in and share wisdom and discuss with us. That was super cool. And I think also the selection of people was really amazing. I was so impressed, and really just it was amazing that I could talk about neurodiversity with the group, and that you had someone who knew a lot about it from personal experience, but also works professionally with it. That was so cool.
You're always so encouraging and saying, like, if you haven't done it, that's fine. Raise your hand. We'll put you in a breakout group with someone who has done it. This was always so nice, because even if I hadn't managed to do it, I still looked forward to the integration calls. I still knew that I would get something out of it. I think that's something that you do really well in the program. And also the option to facilitate a call. I think that was so cool. Enjoyed having that, and having a chance to have a one-on-one with you, ask questions, get some input, also really cool. And as well with the Purpose Project, being able to apply some of the skills that we had, that to be really, really useful.
I think the way that I approached it was really, first of all, with trust, and also with certain ease with the content. So it's like, if something didn't resonate, I wasn't feeling guilty about letting it go. And if something did, then I would go quite deeply into it. So for me, that was kind of a natural way to approach the content. It is a lot of content, but at the same time, like, I don't want to say less content. Like, I think I wouldn't want to not have been exposed to some of the ideas.
I think what I really love is this mix of methods and the material. Sometimes it's just audio, just listening. Sometimes it's slides. Sometimes it's something to read. Sometimes it's nothing of that at all, and you just have to write or think or something like meditation or music or something to get into it. And then maybe there is a part that is more, let's say, hard facts or theory, and then this interaction. I just find the mix of all these different elements so amazing, really. There are also even theories behind it, because you don't invent these things. What you do is really based on studies, on research. It's not out of the blue. And I think this was important also for me to see, or to have more authority myself in this, saying, yes, it's a different style, but it's also a valid style.
And then this idea of having, the leader inside, the leader beside, the leader in the fields, the leader in front, and the leader behind. It kind of enabled me to see, actually I am able to have power where I am, and leadership power where I am. It's also about stepping into it.
First, in general, it was an awesome course. I really liked it. There was so much content, was so helpful for me, and so many new ideas. I found it very interesting, and new things I never thought about, I've never been in touch with. It was really inspiring and enriching and opening up new perspectives. I really liked the theory of change approach. I found it really helpful for me to get more the vision where I want to go. And the leadership principle, that's really helpful.
Really, really loved learning in module 2 about the coaching skills and how to give feedback. All like so important in the work that we do, because we work in such a people-intensive environment, managing teams, managing clients. Being able to like sit in calls and really, focusing on actively listening, which is something I always have such trouble in, or like really trying to find ways in which I can provide feedback, sometimes also critical feedback, also something I really have struggled with.
I've seen and experienced facilitation so many times, and I really doubted whether this could actually be an effective way of, changing organizations or mindsets and processes. I just realized the big differences in how you do it. I think it's just really opened up my kind of curiosity around it a lot more. And I guess just overall, I'm really interested in facilitation now. And I was the last person, I never thought of myself as a facilitator.
A huge part of the Lead the Change program is this experience of learning in an inspiring community, exchanging with like-minded and really motivated women from around the world. So here's what the participants had to say about doing the program in a learning community.
I absolutely loved it, because I think literally from like day one, it was as if we all knew why we were there. And we all knew that this was going to be a really sort of great journey. We were going to support each other. We were going to learn from each other, like have fun with each other. It was just, it just seemed like we had even known each other, it was so effortless, like connecting with all these women. Like I say, they kind of have similar backgrounds and interests, and they're all purpose driven, or looking for how to make more of an impact. And that really, that really makes a connection that you don't need to try too hard for.
You just straight away get to know people on a quite a deep level. So I think like just when you start that, there is like this bond that's created, and I can't conceive how we would not go forward and kind of stay as a community.
It does feel weird that it's over, because I just feel like, the whole group has just become so much part of my weekly or even somehow daily, with all the messages that we get. Thank you so much for even having the brainchild to develop these programs, because I think you've just impacted so many women in a positive way. And I'm so excited to be part of this community and see where it goes next. Really.
There's the aspect of being led through this journey that I think is, I said before, is transformative and is applicable to almost, I would say, any stage of life. And I think if I were to recommend the program, it would really depend on the friend and how well I knew them, because I would say that it's not for everyone, but when it's for you, it's the thing you need. There is no question about that. And then there's just the community aspect. I think I really underestimated before becoming part of the Grateful from Be the Change and then Lead the Change, how important having a community of women is in my life. And I think in all of our lives, we've lost a bit this aspect, or lost entirely this aspect in our society. And, so it's not only you as the mentor, it's not only the content and the transformative aspect of that content, and it's not only the community of women, it's all of this together that just kind of creates or recreates something that we've lost in our society. And I'm always so energized after any of the calls, and I'm always looking forward to Thursdays when the lesson comes out and to see what you'll offer for us this week. So it's just a whole package, kind of fills a hole that I had in my life that I didn't know what it was from. And this has just given more fullness to, everyday life.
It was such a nice time spending with you, and all the other women were really, really, really nice to have like the exchange with them, their support, their ideas. It was really cool. And I'm really sad it's over. It was very enriching for me to have also that regular exchange with the others. Just a big thank you again. It's so amazing what you have set up. I'm so grateful to be in the community and that I've been able to be part of the program.
So I'm really mindful that every participant coming in to Lead the Change has a different lived experience, different questions that they're grappling with. And so I expected that, they would find different parts of the course impactful. But when I asked them about that, almost all of them mentioned one aspect of the program as being the most important or impactful for them. And that was the work that we did with the Enneagram. So here's just a snapshot of what some of the participants had to say about working with the Enneagram as part of the program.
The Enneagram stuff, I would say if I had to pick one thing, the program didn't exist and I would still want to be exposed to one idea, it would be that one.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I think what really struck me the most was the Enneagram. I just found it so, maybe we always care about ourselves the most in a sense, everything that's about ourselves is just like, oh my God. But I was just really impressed by something generic in a sense, that it can have so much significance. And it really did give me a lot of things to consider.
When I found out about my Enneagram, and I was like, oh my God, I've learned so much about myself. Everything makes sense now. Within reason of the Enneagram and how much we should read into it.
The Enneagram sessions, that was a revelation, and I keep coming back to it. And it's just, it's weird how much it helps and how much it freaks you out at the beginning. And it's just this framework that you can keep coming back to.
I think everybody got crazy about the Enneagram. It was so interesting, and so much also looking forward to working more with that and also with that development plan. It made me a bit kind of more confident because it really resonated with me. And I found it like kind of a confirmation of myself, and also that I'm maybe also right in the job I'm doing.
Now, looking back, I see the structure also much better. I see how, for example, the Enneagram helps me in the facilitation part and being much more aware of that and these kind of grow lines.
I had these chats with participants as they were leaving the program, and I was interested to hear, what are they taking with them right now? What are they playing with or working on in their day-to-day life as a result of having done the program? This is what they had to say.
Especially maybe practices and situations where I am not naturally comfortable or confident, but that I actually really need to do things that are really important for me. And I think that was really important for me to just reframe things that I don't really run towards, reframe them as a practice exercise. And that sounds, kind of easy, but I think it's very fundamental. And it's just a different perspective. I just have that with me now with most things.
I never gave any thought to leadership. I never gave any thought to facilitation by any stretch of the imagination, but it's all part of the same thing. Especially I'm learning, especially for me when I have students that I'm trying to nurture and develop. As a leader, a lot of what I'm doing is facilitating their ability to think and expand and follow their ideas and become independent for themselves. And so I see more and more facilitation coming up every day in my day-to-day life that I probably wouldn't have done before and wouldn't have been aware of how important it is. And it's really, really fun to put together these programs.
I think it's also just really related to this whole knowledge aspect, and that knowing isn't everything, but actually doing something is also a way of knowing and learning. And that takes a lot of courage and reflection. So I think that's really something that I'm going to take away with me. Figure out, how can I actually live what I've learned?
What are my leadership principles? I come back to them again and again. I love that because it makes leadership very personal. It means that I don't have to follow a blueprint somebody else said was leadership, but actually I get to decide how I want to lead and hold a space for others.
What I noticed, it's like these everyday little changes. My perception of things changed, the way that I thought about myself changed, where the doubts that I had about myself started to change. So it was these little incremental changes that slowly made me feel towards the end of the programs that I had learned so much more, that I had been applying some of the things that I had been learning subconsciously or consciously. And I think ultimately the most significant change coming out of this Lead the Change course was much more confidence in my leadership style and better perception of, I have my strengths and my weaknesses, and that's also okay. And I know that I can work on these, and I know that I can foster the strengths and work on the weaknesses.
I can position myself in a leadership role where I am. And I can also see better the kind of leadership roles that different people that I'm interacting with have, and thus be able to better reflect on, okay, this person's a great manager. What are the qualities actually? And to really see that, I had this amazing manager and I couldn't really put words on it. And now I can see, okay, she actually puts people before content. So that was like a big thing of being like, okay, this is why this person was really great. And then other people are really like motivational type leaders. And, you had this embodiment exercise of like leading people towards something, like holding out the hand. And you can really see that. I can really start to see that in different leaders. And I think just because I approach a lot of things by trying to understand them, it's really helpful for me to have these frameworks and to be able to say like, okay, this is the leadership quality that makes them a great leader. And how can I embody that where I am right now?
Never thought about leadership ever, period. But then once I was suddenly in this role and then taking this course, it just took on a brand new meaning and is at the forefront of my thinking at this point in time. And so this is huge. And I really discovered that I love the leadership aspect of my role. I really, 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 truly do. Like more than the research, probably. I really enjoy like interacting with the group members and etc. And so I think the biggest change was just being aware of it and making a conscious effort to be a leader in my way to try to improve myself and the team overall.
This border between self-leadership and leadership. What I think is really beautiful is the more you deep dive into the material and also the optional material and just this whole idea of leading differently and facilitating, you realize that even if you spend more than 50% on yourself, it's always going to help. Because it's so much more than just do this to lead somebody.
I think it's just made me a lot more confident in the way that I was attaching all kind of value of an educator to what you know, to like the knowledge that you can transfer or highlight. And now I realize that actually that's probably not very important, especially nowadays when we can look everything up on Google. So what's your value there? So it just makes you a lot clearer of what your value is. It's actually about facilitating conversations about things that don't even have answers. So how do we find like these solutions that don't exist using the knowledge that we already have? So, and that's where like I think facilitation just plays a key role. Right? You can't do that without facilitation. That's really influenced like my teaching. And I also think it's a lot more interesting and fun for the students.
Feeling comfortable to find what works for you as a leader and not having to emulate what you see in other people. And I know that we always think it's like, oh, I'm trying not to follow this male dominated leadership style, but it's also about not also comparing yourself to other women and really just finding what works for you and trying to develop the areas that you value and you want to develop further. And I think that was something that's been really profound for me, like knowing that you can feel comfortable being the kind of leader that you want to be. And there's so many different ways in which you can do that.
I didn't feel comfortable in how leadership was being filled in some of the big organizations I was part of. Now with this process, I feel much more comfortable. First, to feel confident in filling in leadership with your own voice and recognizing the diversity of options to do that and really building from your own strengths. Coming from a large organization where that is not obvious, it was really very powerful and transformative for me. And then also feeling confident in leading through facilitating, in leading through empowering others, in leading through giving space to others. I think it has always been in my nature to feel much confident with that. But it was not obvious in the system where I was functioning that that's recognized. It has given me much more confidence and also peace of mind. We can contribute to lead the systems change through that role, facilitating, empowering others, and really creating space for that.
As I was wrapping up my conversation with the participants, I asked them if there's anything else that they wanted to share with me, add to our conversation, or say to people who might be thinking about joining Lead the Change. They shared some really beautiful words, and I've decided to include them here, even though it feels slightly strange for me to do so. But I am going to because I want you to have a feeling for the kindness and the generosity and just the supportive nature of this awesome group of women that comes together in this program. So here are some final thoughts from the participants.
it's a lot of things, this program. It's on the one hand, exposure to you and your wisdom and your experience. And I have a lot of trust in you in leading us through these things. So I know that when I'm engaging with something that you do, it's going to be a transformative experience for me.
I really appreciated the course, and I think everyone should do this. I appreciate you. I can't say enough. What you do cannot be underestimated. And yeah, your impact that you have on me and everyone is just huge and rippling in waves. And we really appreciate you so much.
What I'd say to someone who's thinking of doing the program is just absolutely go for it, because it's a really well thought out way of framing the progression towards leadership that you've put together. And I think it doesn't matter where you are in your career trajectory or in your personal growth, you can adapt the content of the program to wherever you are. I mean, because it's resonated with so many of us. I mean, I don't want to speak for others, but I feel like something like this is just so needed. Like, you're really filling this big gap for people with this program, this community. So yeah, can't wait to see what comes next.
I just really want to thank you also, Michelle, for the fantastic program. And it's really, really a journey, and it's really empowering and transformative.
It's an amazing program that, instead of focusing on generic leadership and how to manage people, actually focused on me as a person and on human connection. For me, that's what the future is. We have a lot of problems in our food systems and the way we lead people, the way we work together. And I think this is the only program I've ever seen that would probably manage to holistically shift into the direction that we might actually become optimistic and motivated and might actually be able to really create change. And I feel empowered and enabled, and I feel optimistic and motivated. And I feel like the next couple of years I can always come back and I have everything I need.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Grateful Podcast. If you would like to learn more about Lead the Change, head over to thegrateful.com/lead the change, or just follow the link in the show notes. Applications are now open for the next cohort, kicking off April 26, and it would be amazing to have you with us as we explore what leading change from the inside out actually means for you, and how it can help you be a more fulfilled, inclusive, and impactful leader. Thanks a lot for listening in, and looking forward to chat with you again soon in the next episode.